The last thing my husband, Langston, asked of me was spoken in a frail whisper. "Promise me, Ariel. Don't ever go to the retreat." I agreed, though I never understood why he was so adamant. For years I kept my word, but grief has a way of stirring questions, and curiosity eventually overpowered loyalty. That decision would unravel secrets I never imagined. Langston and I shared nearly 2 decades together before his sudden death from a massive stroke. At 56, he was gone in a matter of hours, leaving me in my late 50s, with our daughter Simone away at college and a silence that seemed to seep into every corner of our home. 2 months after the funeral, I sat across from his attorney, Mr. Whitaker. His office smelled faintly of old paper and cedar polish. He slid a small box and a sealed envelope across the desk. "Your husband left instructions. These were to be delivered only after his passing." Inside the box lay an ornate antique key, its weight far heavier than I expected, attached to a chain shaped like a vine. The envelope bore my name in Langston's unmistakable handwriting. "What property?" I asked, holding the key like it might answer me itself. Mr. Whitaker adjusted his glasses. "A house. Cedarline Haven in the Blue Ridge. He purchased it quietly about 5 years ago." He was explicit. "You weren't to be told until now." My pulse quickened. Langston had never mentioned owning any retreat. We'd lived modestly, sustained by his work as a civil engineer and mine as a literature professor. How could he have afforded another estate, especially one in such a desirable location? And why had he made me swear never to step foot on it? With shaking hands, I opened the envelope. "My dearest Ariel, if you're reading this, I've gone ahead of you. Forgive me for the secrets I kept. The house is now yours. I once asked you not to visit, but I release you from that promise. Please go just once before deciding its fate. In the study you'll find my laptop. The password is the date of our first meeting, followed by the word you taught me to believe again. Hope. I love you endlessly." Even in death, Langston's words pierced me. Secrets, promises, a hidden house. And yet, I felt a pull stronger than fear. "There's one more matter," Mr. Whitaker said gently. "His brothers are contesting the will. Calvin, Dorian, and Reed claim Langston was unfit when he bought the property. Given how much Cedarline has increased in value with the nearby resort project, this could escalate quickly." I pocketed the key, my resolve hardening. "Then I need to see it for myself." 2 days later, I wound through mountain roads, leaves flashing in gold and crimson. At last, a carved wooden gate appeared, iron letters spelling out Cedarline Haven. My hand trembled as I turned the key in the lock. The gates creaked open, revealing manicured grounds that seemed plucked from a dream. It wasn't a rustic cabin as I'd imagined. A sprawling stone and timber mansion rose ahead, flanked by ancient trees and formal gardens. The renovations gleamed, every path, window, and archway carefully restored. This place held no trace of the painful childhood Langston had always avoided discussing. Instead, it radiated intention. Inside I froze. The grand entry opened into a soaring living room with a stone fireplace. But it wasn't the architecture that stole my breath, it was the art. Every wall, every inch of space, was covered with paintings of orchids. White, purple, rare hybrids. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Orchids had been my lifelong passion, a quiet love Langston had supported but never shared. Yet here was a gallery built in my honor, a silent devotion hidden away all these years. On a table by the window sat a silver laptop, a single white orchid resting gently on the lid. My heart lurched. Before I could touch it, the crunch of tires on gravel shattered the stillness. Through the window I saw a black SUV pull up. 3 men emerged, their resemblance to Langston chilling. The same jawline, the same eyes. His brothers. Their stride was confident, possessive, as though they had every right to be here. I quickly shut the door and watched from a side window as they gathered on the porch. Calvin, the eldest, pounded hard. "Ariel, we know you're inside. We need to talk." His voice carried the same edge Langston used to get when he was cornered. My instincts screamed to stay silent. Langston's vague warnings about his family suddenly rang clear. The pounding grew louder. "I'm Calvin. These are my brothers, Dorian and Reed. This property concerns all of us. They weren't here to comfort a grieving widow. They were here for the house and the fortune it represented." I turned back to the laptop, my lifeline in that moment. With trembling hands, I typed the password, August 142000 hope. The screen flickered to life. A single folder appeared, labeled simply, for Ariel. Inside were dozens of video files, each marked with dates stretching across an entire year. My hand hovered, then clicked the first. Langston's face filled the screen. Not the fragile man from his final days, but vibrant, smiling, alive. "Hello, my love," he said, his voice warm. "If you're watching this, I'm gone, and you came to see the line, just as I knew you would. I left something here for you, not just the house, but the truth I couldn't share in life." I pressed a hand to my mouth, tears spilling freely. Outside, his brothers muttered impatiently on the porch. Inside, Langston's eyes met mine across time, steady and knowing. "This," he said softly, "is where our story changes." Langston's face glowed on the screen, alive in a way that pierced me. "If you're watching this, Ariel, it means I'm gone," he began. His smile softened. "I should have told you so much. Every secret, every shadow from my past. But instead, I built this place, piece by piece, as my final gift. What you see here wasn't only a house, it was my redemption." My throat tightened. He leaned closer, voice lowering. 3 years ago, doctors found a cerebral aneurysm. They gave me 2 to 4 years. I didn't tell you or Simone. I didn't want our lives clouded by a countdown. I staggered back from the laptop, my chest burning. He had kept this from me. From us. As if sensing my reaction, his recorded voice continued. "I know you're angry. You deserved honesty. But I wanted our time to feel whole, not like borrowed days. So instead, I poured myself into this estate. Every trip I told you was for work. I was here, building something for you." Outside, the pounding on the door subsided. Through the window, I caught sight of his brothers near their SUV, arguing over papers. Their faces were sharp with frustration. Langston's tone hardened. "What my brothers don't know is that I bought Cedaline back from our father before he died. He was drowning in debt, desperate for cash. He sold it to me quietly and swore me to secrecy. My brothers always assumed they'd inherit it. They never forgave me for leaving them behind. And now that the developers want this land, they'll try to tear everything from you." My eyes darted to the window again. The men were on their phones, pacing, whispering furiously. "Listen carefully," Langston said, his eyes steady. "In the drawer beneath this table is a blue folder. Every document proving this estate belongs to you is inside. Bank transfers, deeds, notarized statements. It is airtight. If they challenge you, stand firm. This house is yours. And one more thing, in the conservatory behind the main house is something I cultivated for years. Orchids. The rarest kinds I could find. They're my last gift to you." The video ended, freezing on his crooked smile. I sat trembling, staring at the man who had kept such monumental secrets. A diagnosis hidden. A house rebuilt in silence. A war I hadn't known was waiting. The sharp knock returned, this time accompanied by an authoritative voice. "Mrs. Carter, county officer. Please open the door." I closed the laptop, slid the blue folder under my arm, and braced myself. The officer, a young man with a neutral expression, stood flanked by Calvin, Dorian, and Reed. Their smugness had returned. Calvin's jaw tightened when his eyes found the folder in my hands. "These gentlemen have a court order requesting inspection of the property," the officer explained. I handed him the folder before Calvin could speak. "You should review these before anyone sets foot inside." My husband anticipated this exact stunt. Calvin scoffed. "This is a family matter." Ariel is emotional and confused. My brother's judgment was impaired when he purchased Cedaline. I met the officer's gaze, ignoring Calvin's condescension. "I am not confused. I am a widow standing on property that is legally mine. Those men are strangers who happen to share my husband's bloodline." The officer flipped through the documents, deeds, notarized signatures, bank statements. His expression shifted subtly as he read. "Everything here appears valid," he said finally. "Gentlemen, this is a civil matter, not criminal. I can't enforce an inspection today." The brothers' faces drained of color. Reed muttered under his breath, while Dorian's loyally mask cracked. "This isn't over," Calvin snapped. I smiled faintly. "No, it isn't. But neither am I. That night I couldn't sleep. Instead, I explored the estate Langston had resurrected. The library was lined with first editions of my favorite books. The sunroom overlooked gardens arranged like paintings. Every corner bore his fingerprints, his quiet way of knowing me more deeply than I knew myself. At dawn, I entered the conservatory. My breath caught. Glass walls bathed the room in golden light, and orchids of every kind bloomed in perfect rows. White phalaenopsis, rare slipper orchids, a blue cattleyas, flowers I'd only ever admired in books. A woman appeared among the plants, middle-aged, holding a sprayer. "Good morning," she said gently. "I'm Mrs. Thompson. Your husband hired me to care for these." I blinked at her. "You worked for Langston?" She smiled warmly. "For the last 4 years. He came every month, sometimes more, overseeing every detail. He always spoke of you. Said no one could nurture orchids the way you did." Emotion rose in my chest. "Did he ever mention his health?" Her smile faltered. "Not directly. But in the last year, he pushed harder. He worked as though time was running out." Her words cut deep, confirming the truth he'd kept from me. He knew his brothers would come sniffing around once the developers announced the resort, Mrs. Thompson added, her tone tightening. "They mocked him for buying this place until it turned valuable. Now they circle like vultures." I nodded grimly. "They'll be back." She studied me a moment before replying. "Then you'll need to be ready. And Langston made sure you would be." Later that morning, I returned to the laptop for the next video. Langston appeared again, seated in the library I had just walked through. "Good morning, love," he said with a familiar tilt of his smile. "I hope you slept well in our home. Today, I want to show you something you left behind long ago." The camera shifted as he walked down a hallway, stopping at a door I hadn't yet opened. "This room is yours," he said. "The key is in the nightstand drawer." I paused the video, rushed upstairs, and found the silver key exactly where he described. My pulse raced as I unlocked the door at the end of the east wing. The sight stole my breath. A studio. An entire art studio. Sunlight poured through tall windows onto easels, paints, brushes, canvases. Everything an artist could dream of. I hadn't painted in 15 years. I'd given up my art after college to build a stable life, to teach, to raise our daughter. And now, here it was, returned to me. The video continued. Langston's voice softened. "You gave up so much for us, Ariel. Painting was your first sacrifice. I promised myself I'd give it back to you someday. These are your works from college." I saved them. I opened a cabinet where he directed me. Inside were dozens of my old paintings, carefully preserved. At the top lay my final self-portrait, a younger me gazing toward a future bright with possibility. Tears blurred my eyes as I pressed his note to my chest. He had remembered. He had seen me. Then the crunch of tires returned. I hurried to the window. 2 SUVs. One black. One silver. My heart sank. Simone stepped out of the silver one. My daughter, my anchor. She was shaking hands with her uncles, smiling. My knees weakened. In a single moment, the battle for Cedaline had become more personal than I could bear. From the studio window, I watched Simone step out of a silver SUV, her smile easy as she shook Calvin's hand. My daughter, barely 21, already calling strangers uncles. A text vibrated on my phone. "Mom, I'm here with Uncle Calvin and the others. Coming in now. Uncle." The word stung. I closed the studio door and waited in the great room. Simone entered without hesitation, the 3 brothers at her back like shadows. "Mom," she said warmly, hugging me before her eyes swept the space. "This house is amazing. Why did Dad keep it from us?" Before I could answer, Calvin spoke with rehearsed charm. "We may have gotten off to the wrong start. We're family. There's no need for conflict." Dorian held a leather folder. Reed lingered silent, watchful. "Simone," I said firmly, "we agreed you wouldn't meet them until we talked." "They've been kind," she replied, lifting her chin. "And they're family too." Her words sliced me open. "Family you never knew until yesterday." "Because Dad kept them away," she shot back. "Just like he hid this house. Doesn't that bother you?" Calvin seized the opening. "Old wounds don't matter anymore. What matters is honoring the Morrison legacy." Simone nodded quickly. Uncle Calvin explained. "This place was supposed to be shared. Grandpa sold it cheap, but it was always meant for all of them. I exhaled sharply. And that has nothing to do with the resort project. Dorian opened his folder. We've prepared a fair offer, 1/3 for you, 1/3 for Simone, and the rest for us. Simone brightened. It makes sense, Mom. We don't need a giant estate. We could sell, take the money and move on. My husband left this property to me, I said, staring at Calvin. He smirked. He wasn't thinking clearly at the end. Anger burned through me. Langston was lucid to his last day. Reed spoke, voice quiet but pointed. Then why the secrecy? Why the attorney? Why the locked doors? I gripped Langston's folder. Every detail and approved otherwise. Mom, Simone pressed gently. This could secure our future. Before I could answer, Mrs. Thompson appeared from the conservatory. Is everything all right? This is family business, Calvin said coldly. She works here, I shot back. She belongs. She's part of the disputed assets, Dorian countered smoothly. Mrs. Thompson stood tall. Mr. Langston made me promise I'd look after this place and his wife. That was enough. Leave, I told the brothers. Then I softened toward Simone. Except you. But she shook her head. I think I'll go with them. We have more to discuss. Her quick kiss on my cheek felt like betrayal. Watching her leave with them hollowed me out. Once the SUVs vanished, Mrs. Thompson turned, her eyes heavy. There's something you need to see. Something Langston hid until the time was right. She led me across the lawn to a weathered shed. Inside, beneath stacked boxes, she revealed a trapdoor. What is this? I whispered. A vault, she replied, lifting it open. We descended into a concrete tunnel that stretched into a hidden chamber. File cabinets lined the walls, maps plastered with red markings, a table cluttered with documents. Langston called it his war room, Mrs. Thompson said. I stared, stunned. Maps revealed the resort project's secret expansions. Without Cedaline, half their plan collapsed. He knew. Eventually, when developers started their studies, he hired specialists. They uncovered everything, and he documented it all. She handed me a thick folder. Tax fraud, insider trading, embezzlement. Your husband built a case that could destroy his brother's credibility. I sank into a chair. Why gather all this? Because he knew they'd come for you, she said softly. My mind shifted to Simone, already swayed. They're manipulating her. She's grieving, Mrs. Thompson replied. Hungry for connection. They're exploiting that. I pressed my palms to the table, forcing clarity. Then I need to move first. Simone, then my attorney. And then, my eyes went to the resort maps. Summit Resorts. Mrs. Thompson's lips curved faintly. Langston would be proud. No, I said, steadying myself. I'll make him prouder. The brothers arrived exactly when I expected. 10 o'clock sharp. Their SUV rolled confidently up the Cedaline drive, followed by a gray sedan carrying a suited stranger. From the study window, I adjusted the cuffs of my tailored jacket. Today, I would not meet them as a widow. Today, I would meet them as Langston's equal. They're here, I called. Simone emerged from the library, calm but taut, her father's old watch gleaming on her wrist. Remember, I whispered, squeezing her hand, let them expose themselves first. We moved into the dining room, already staged with water, documents, and a hidden projection screen. Mrs. Thompson ushered them in. Calvin led, Dorian's folder clutched close, Reed trailing with a silent intensity. Behind them walked a corporate man introduced as Mr. Hayes, CFO of their firm. Elena, Calvin said smoothly, we appreciate this chance to resolve things. With Mr. Hayes, we can finalize a division that benefits everyone. Division, I repeated, holding the remote in my hand. That's what I'd like to discuss. A click, and the hidden screen dropped. A detailed map of Cedaline filled the wall, revealing 25 acres, not the 10 they'd claimed. Dorian shifted. We excluded the western portion. It's undevelopable land, simpler that way. How considerate, I replied dryly. Another click layered the map with the real resort plans, the golf course and Phase 2 expansions. Hayes leaned forward, startled. These plans, Calvin snapped, are speculation. Before I could answer, the side door opened. Mr. Ellison, CEO of Summit Resorts, entered with my attorney and 2 executives. The brothers froze. What is this? Calvin demanded. This, I said evenly, is a discussion about Cedaline's true value. Mr. Ellison has reviewed the complete documents my husband compiled before his death. Hayes turned sharply to the brothers. You told me you had exclusive rights. That was false. They don't, my attorney interjected, dropping certified deeds and bank records on the table. Mrs. Morrison alone holds title. Calvin slammed his palm against the wood. This house belongs to the Morrison bloodline. Richard had an obligation. Simone's voice cut through the room, steady and sharp. Like the obligation you had when you stole his inheritance at 19? Or forged his signature while he was away at school? The brothers paled. Hayes' expression darkened as he scanned the evidence envelope my attorney slid before him. Copies of tax records, fraudulent transactions, affidavits. These are private family matters, Dorian muttered, rattled. Not when they establish a pattern of deceit, I countered. Not when you use those lies to mislead your own partners. Silence thickened as the brothers realized the trap was complete. What do you want, Elena? Calvin asked finally, his mask on. Simple, I said. You will end every claim, withdraw every motion, and never again manipulate my daughter. In return, these documents remain private. Hayes stood abruptly. I will not be part of this. Mrs. Morrison, I'll contact you directly about legitimate negotiations. He left, disgust etched on his face. Ellison cleared his throat. Summit Resorts is prepared to discuss a partnership that honors both development and preservation. Your husband indicated you'd insist on that balance. He was right. As negotiations continued, real ones this time, I caught Simone's eye. Her faint smile said it all. Pride, relief, and recognition of her father's foresight. 2 hours later, the Morrison brothers left, their empire cracked, their leverage gone. They had underestimated the woman they thought was broken. Langston had prepared me for this moment. I had simply stepped into the role. When their SUVs disappeared down the road, Mrs. Thompson appeared quietly at my side. He'd be proud. You did exactly what he believed you would. I looked toward the horizon beyond the windows, where sunlight cut across the estate Langston had rebuilt. This is just the beginning, I whispered. They thought they could divide us. Instead, they reminded me exactly who I am. The morning of the wedding felt unreal. Golden light spilled across the Pacific, flooding the glass walls of our estate. Inside, florists, stylists, and coordinators moved with precision, every detail rehearsed like a symphony. My gown waited, a shimmering piece of art, delicate beading catching the sun like fragments of starlight. You ready? Elias asked softly from the doorway, already in his tailored suit. His eyes, calm, steady, said everything. I smiled. More than ready. By late afternoon, the terrace filled with guests, humanitarians, innovators, artists, survivors. No Vances, no gatekeepers of old wounds. Just people who mattered. Drones hovered quietly, cameras rolling for the televised broadcast the architect's vow. This wasn't just a wedding. It was a statement. As music swelled from a quartet floating on the reflecting pool, I walked the aisle. The crowd hushed. My gown caught the last rays of sunlight, and Elias waited, eyes shining. Our vows were raw and hopeful, forged in everything we had endured. When the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, applause rippled through the air. But in Chicago, silence reigned. My parents had gathered their circle for a cocktail hour, televisions tuned to the news. Suddenly, the broadcast cut to our ceremony. My name filled the screen. Leona Morrison, a bride the world now celebrated, while their own guests whispered, "Why weren't you invited?" Back at our estate, laughter and music rose into the night. Michelin-crafted dishes, heartfelt speeches, a jazz band under strings of light. Yet the most unforgettable scene unfolded outside the gates. A black limousine stopped. My parents stepped out, dressed for spectacle, Adrian behind them, roses in his hand. They strode toward the checkpoint as if the world still bent for them. "We're here for the bride," my mother announced. The guard checked his tablet. "Your names aren't on the list." "We're her family," Adrian scoffed. "She must have made a mistake." "No mistake," the guard replied firmly. "This is a private event." A crowd of guests noticed. Cameras turned. Someone live-streamed the standoff. Within minutes, the clip flooded social media. "Imagine disowning your daughter, then trying to crash her wedding. Hashtag too late trended worldwide. Inside, Elias handed me his phone with the clip. I watched their faces as realization set in. The gate closed. Their power dissolved. Moments later, a message buzzed from my mother. Can we come in? I typed 2 words back. Too late. I didn't send it from spite. I sent it from peace. Because the wound of their absence had finally closed. What remained wasn't revenge, but reclamation of my worth, my voice, my story. That night, under amber lights and ocean wind, Elias pulled me close as laughter swelled around us. For the first time, the world I built wasn't shadowed by their judgment. It was alive with freedom. And it was beautiful.